The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
All season long, Quinn Hughes has been compared to Bobby Orr and Bo Horvat. In other words, this guy's been extraordinary and the only reason why we're here. Speaking of which, let's do this. Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer since 2013, currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's Pro Quinn Hughes episode, we got to thank you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks, because it is your Canucks every damn day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, who gave us that new intro. Shout out Locked On. Hey, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe or follow us on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to leave a 5-star review, I'll come to your house and give you a hug. Straight up, man. Straight up. On today's episode, before we get to this episode, okay, I got to shout out our friends over at Sleeper. Download that Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. I don't think anyone is sleeping on Quinn Hughes anymore, because the East Coast, they've been sleeping on this guy for a long, long time. And you know what? They might still be sleeping on him to a certain extent, because I don't know if anyone in the East is feeling this bold. But on today's episode of Locked On Canucks, we want to tell you why Quinn Hughes rightly deserves in the Hart Trophy conversation. And honestly, there's a pretty compelling argument that he should be a finalist for the Hart Trophy as well, okay? Damn. We're going to get into that. Just kick off Locked On Canucks, talking about the best American player in the NHL. Sorry, Austin Matthews. Later on this episode, we also want to talk about the Canucks owning the Edmonton Oilers, talk a bit about that game, but more so some of the loser mentality and the baby mentality that's coming out of Edmonton Nation in terms of some of the articles written about them after losing to the Canucks. And don't forget, this is coming from a team where, you know, Connor McWiner was complaining about the Canucks and their goalie situation from game 1 of the season. Anyways, F the Edmonton Oilers. Have more on that. We did that on Friday, but more about that coming up next or later on in the show. And finally, I think it's the second last time we'll do Goats of the Week. There's still 2 more games, so we'll do Goats of the Week next week as well. But that's all coming up on today's episode. Before we get to all of that, let me introduce my co-host. He's going to get a Quinn Hughes tattoo on his left butt cheek. Kyle Bowen. Yeah. How's it going, brother?
Or a tramp stamp, you know? One of those. Can I say that on here? Is that allowed? I think so, right? Yeah, we're all the same. Yeah, or one of those, you know? If you win a Stanley Cup. In fact, I promise you, if you win a Stanley Cup this year, I'll get one of those tattoos. A Stanley Cup tattoo. Right there. Boom, bam. Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs, dreaming big, okay? We've been dreaming big all season. Even in the offseason, we said it. Your Vancouver Canucks are going to win the Stanley Cup if everything goes right. It's ironic because I feel as if we said that before Rutherford said what he had to say about the playoffs and everything going right. AKA, you know, if you're here with us, listening or watching this, you're listening to the fortune tellers here in the West Coast, the best coast of Vancouver, man. A couple days away from the playoffs, and Beggsy, I feel as if we knew this was going to happen, and a big reason why I think we knew this was going to happen was because we believed, especially you, believed that Quinn Hughes was going to take his game to the next level, okay? Back in August, back in July, you said it. You said Quinn Hughes is going to put up 100 points. Now, he's not going to get to 100, but he's going to get pretty damn close. And because of that, all season long, this guy's been compared to Brian Leetch, Bobby Orr, and again, I'm going to bring up the name, Bo Horvat, okay? Because the comparison is there. Old captain to the new, and he's the biggest reason and the biggest change in scenery in that locker room. And look at where we are. The leadership from the top internally, as that player group is or was being formed in the offseason, was allowed to, I don't know, just ease its way into making sure this team would take the next step because Captain America was the captain of the Vancouver Canucks.
Captain America. Hey, maybe Quinn Hughes has a tattoo of Captain America on his chest. Every time he has a post-game presser, he's not one of those, not many shirtless post-game presser guys in today's NHL, but wouldn't be surprised if Quinn Hughes has a Captain America tattoo somewhere on his body. And if he doesn't, he should, okay? Because again, when we talk about this MVP race, everyone talks about this compelling race, like, oh, there's McKinnon, oh, there's McDavid. And those two, in my opinion, have been the best two players in hockey. I'll put that out there now. Kucherov, Matthews, Pasternak, Hellebuck, but Quinn Hughes belongs in that conversation, okay? Because when he's on the ice, I would argue that maybe aside from McKinnon and McDavid, no player has been more valuable to his team. And I know Austin Matthews has been putting up the goals, and Kucherov's got 140 points. But again, Quinn Hughes as a defenseman is pushing 100 points. And when he is on the ice, the Canucks are outscoring their opposition almost 2-1 and outpossessing them, all the while going into the team's best player on a nightly basis. I mean, Quinn Hughes has been putting up video game like numbers. Again, not just defense or not just in terms of counting stats, but in terms of the analytics as well. Look at this. Okay, at even strength this season, Quinn Hughes has been on the ice for 91 even strength goals for. Only Nathan McKinnon has been on the ice for more even strength goals than Quinn Hughes. Okay,
what
I mean,
Quinn
Hughes, he's doing it all for your Vancouver Canucks. I think, again, if the power play was clicking, he'd be at 100 points. I think that's probably the most frustrating part about the Canucks season so far. But, Kyle, tell me I'm wrong. Is it crazy to say that Quinn Hughes should be a finalist for the Hart?
Well, dude, that 5-on-5 stat that you just mentioned is mind-boggling. Which makes me want to say this too. Remember, for the last 40 games, the Canucks power play has sucked, aka been mediocre. So if that wasn't the case, and he's doing large part for that, right? If he's the leader on the power play and the power play struggling, he has a lot to do with that. I will also say that Pettersson has a lot to do with it too. But if that's not the case, Quinn Hughes is at 100 points. You know what I'm saying? And again, just to bring it back to this, Trevor, I want to throw it back to you, and let's throw in philosophy, okay? Let's screw the points, let's screw the counting stats, all that jazz. The Vancouver Canucks were the Vancouver Canucks 12 months ago. You know what I'm saying? And Quinn Hughes took the C. It was supposed to be Pettersson, right, for so long. Then Quinn Hughes takes it because Rick Tocchet knows that that's his guy. And going to this season, the Canucks had so much pressure on him. So much pressure on him. And in a locker room that also consists of a guy named JT Miller, Quinn Hughes is able to rally up the troops, hold the boys accountable, and ultimately lead this team to success. Like, I guess what I'm trying to ask you, was there how many more players in the league had this much pressure on them going into the season?
Whew, that's a great question, actually. I can't think of many off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think David Pastrnak comes to mind, just because, no Bergeron, no Krejci. But yeah, aside from that, I think you're right. There was a ton of pressure on this guy coming into the season, and there was a ton of pressure on this entire locker room, Kyle. And we talked about it prior to the season starting. That I think every team talks about, oh, you got to start right. No, we've had the best training camp all time, and it's got to translate. Oh, the Canucks had some legit pressure. You go through another season where if they had a bad start, it's like you're kind of looking at blowing the whole thing up, right? You've changed the coach, you've changed the GM. There was a ton of pressure on this team to get it right. And, you put Quinn Hughes in charge as captain. And again, I think a lot of people around the league might have raised an eyebrow at that, right? You don't see too many 5'10". Yeah, you don't see too many 5'10" defensemen like Quinn Hughes in general. But nonetheless, someone like that as captain, I can't really think of anyone else, to be honest. So, and Quinn Hughes has taken that challenge. And not only has he risen to the occasion, but he's been, for my opinion, the best defenseman in the NHL this season and a top 5 skater in the NHL this season. Make it a top 3, okay? I'm going back. Make it a top 3.
Dude, he's put up the best Canucks season of all time. It's just the truth. Okay, now look at the stat, okay? I'm going to do my best to read this. I'm getting better at this whole reading thing. This is from what? Dauber Stats? Is that who I'm referring to here? Okay, they just put up an article talking about some of the most outstanding numbers this season, and they had this little spiel on Quinn Hughes, okay? So I'm going to try reading this out, okay? Be patient with me, okay? When you start throwing out the names such as blue liners like Ray Bourque and Bobby Orr, whichever player mentioned next is going to be held in extremely high regard. Such should be the case with the season the 24-year-old captain of your Vancouver Canucks, Quinn Hughes, is putting up, okay? Straight up. The Vancouver Canucks regarded wizard is not only leading all defensemen in scoring with 91 points, but he became only the third blue liner in NHL history along Bourque and Bobby Orr to record 9 3-assist games, 9 or more in one season. Think about that. 9 games where this guy put 3 or more assists in a game, aka a big reason why your team picked up the dub. And as Trevor alluded to, this guy's a quote-unquote undersized defenseman. You know what I'm saying? Playing big minutes, holding the whole city on his shoulders, being the captain going into this season. And he just proved that he can do this, man. He can handle it. And ultimately that he's accountable. Straight up. Like you can very much say this. He wasn't going to take a losing type of season at all. You know what I'm saying? He put it on himself to get better during the offseason. I'm pretty sure they told him he was going to be the captain in like last June, okay? For real. He put it on himself to get a lot better, and he took a huge step in his game all around. And just look at the record, man. Look at the record and look at what Horvat's having to deal with the Islanders, right? I think they can still make the playoffs, but they're fighting for a playoff spot where the Vancouver Canucks are fighting for legitimacy, okay? Being a contender, being at the top, possibly in their conference still. And I don't want to say it's all because of Quinn Hughes, but he makes this whole thing a lot easier. Now, I did see a stat also that showed me that out of all the top defensemen in the league, Quinn Hughes has held onto the puck in the offensive zone for like 25 more minutes than Cale Makar, who was number 2 in that stat. In other words, you're right, Trevor. This guy is arguably the most important player to his team. And can you just for my ear, okay? So just so I can get a little stiff here, okay? Can you just read out that stat about the 5-on-5 goals or the differential again? I just want to get it. I need to hear things twice because that is such an alarming, fascinating, extraordinary type of stat. Because I didn't see that. I didn't think that was possible for a defenseman. Straight up.
Yeah. So again, Nathan McKinnon has been on the ice for 99 ranked goals for this season. Quinn Hughes is second in the NHL. He's been on the ice for 91 even strength and only 54 games. So I'm telling you, like when Quinn Hughes is on the ice, the Canucks are outscoring the opposition almost 2-1. And again, Quinn Hughes is doing this while going against the team's best players on a nightly basis. And just to bring it back to playoff time here, I think one of the most enticing things for Canucks fans, and Kyle, if this doesn't make you stiff, I don't know what will. Quinn Hughes is averaging under 25 minutes a game this season. There's a good chance when we get to the playoffs, Quinn Hughes is pushing 30 minutes a game. This guy might be on the ice for 5 minutes more per game than he is right now come postseason time, which is a scary thought for the opposition and an exciting thought for Canucks fans.
And bro, we've mentioned this so many times, and we also did it a couple weeks ago when we compared this guy to Duncan Keith, right? We've been up against so many teams, or we've seen teams in the playoffs lean on that number 1 defenseman, and the Vancouver Canucks could never do that because they never had a number 1 defenseman. So going into the playoffs this season, it's going to feel brand new for us because Quinn Hughes in a 16-minute hockey game in which games are really close, I'm talking 1 or 2 goal games, he's playing more than half the game. It's just the truth. And that's an exciting thing because that guy has a motor. That guy has the gas. Now, I will say in recent history, in the last couple of games, I've seen him take a couple long shifts, right? Which is okay because he can do it. He has the motor. But it's also led to, some turnovers. I'm not going to front. He's going to have to, calm that down a bit for real. The mistakes are going to cost you. But all in all, the guy's got the motor to do it. And I am more than excited to see this guy start his journey to the Conn Smythe, okay? For real. In the group chat, I said Pettersson's going to win the Conn Smythe in our private group chat. But now the more and more I think about it, dude, there's no way the Canucks win the cup. And Quinn Hughes is not the Conn Smythe winner.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully the Canucks got a few candidates who could be up there. And hey, as much flack as Pettersson's taken, I'm looking today, he's still 19th overall in the NHL in points. But JT Miller, Thatcher Demko, Quinn Hughes, playoff hockey's on the horizon, and those 4, if the Canucks are going to go on a long run, are going to be difference makers. Let us know in the comments or interact with us wherever you like to, use the interweb. Do you think Quinn Hughes should be a candidate for the Hart Trophy this season? And again, I'm looking at the competitors and Austin Matthew with the nice 69 goals. I don't think he has as big of an impact on his team as Quinn Hughes does. Nikita Kucherov, 140 points, impressive. Pretty putrid defensive numbers. I don't think he has the same impact that Quinn Hughes does. Quinn Hughes, for my money, has been the 3rd most impactful NHLer this season and belongs rightly in the MVP conversation. I'm sure we're going to bring up Quinn Hughes on the other side because he was noticeable again against the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday night, where the Canucks beat the Oilers and the Edmonton Oilers pretended not to be sad about it. More on that on the other side. But first, let's shout out our friends over at eBay Motors. Oh, you know the deal. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what helps Kyle's. Oh, no, sorry about that. That's what helps the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Again, it's not a sex read, I swear. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're to speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, baby. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Why isn't the button working, dude? I have no idea why my whole system's glitching out here. I think Trevor's glitching out too. If you're still with us, Kyle Bound, Locked on Canucks. Trevor's Wi-Fi absolute garbage. Okay, we're doing this. We're trying to do it with Trevor's Wi-Fi. Man, oh man, Trevor, get some better Wi-Fi, bro. Unreal, dude. You know what? The playoffs haven't started yet. There's still a chance. Let us know in the comments below if Trevor should get better Wi-Fi and who his provider should be. Maybe you guys are the internet experts, okay? For real. Anyways, Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs doing this, talking about your Canucks on Locked on Canucks. Trevor's looking left and right. I don't know if he's with us right now. Speak up. Are you with us?
Oh man, I'm as frustrated as you, man. That's unbelievable. I don't know if we got any IT experts here. Help me out, man. Help me out. I think it's just, yeah. Anyways, it is what it is. I need internet stick. I need a satellite dish. I don't know. I need something. I need bigger ears. Something of the sort.
Man, oh man, it is what it is. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll clean that up. Maybe by the end of the week. Who knows? Luckily, it's not about us. Okay, it's about the Vancouver Canucks, and I'm kind of confident going into the playoffs. Okay, not fully confident. You know, we will touch on this game that happened against the Oilers, but I just feel as if there is still a lot of room for us to grow, and unfortunately, the time has kind of ended for us to display that prior to the playoffs. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, they better flip the switch offensively in the playoffs. I'm not going to take what they do against the Flames and the Jets too seriously. They had their chance against the Oilers on Saturday. They looked all right. You know what I'm saying? Looked all right. But all in all, not completely confident going into the playoffs, but I hope that during game 1, game 2, game 3, whoever they play, they show that, that next tier of offense that I know Pettersson and company can bring.
Yeah, I think I'm less worried than you, Kyle, to be honest, because, again, to me, and I've said it before, shout out to the everydayers, they know this. What would concern me more would be, poor defensive play. And this team has shown, especially over the latter half of the season, that they are one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. They shut it down, and they did it against the Edmonton Oilers in the final 40 minutes of that game, okay? Because in the first period, it was the Casey DeSmith show. But again, they didn't have McDavid, right? So you got to give the Oilers a little grace there, which I hate to do. But they really didn't give the Oilers much, especially in that third period. Now, I think the Canucks offense has the ability to be a bit opportunistic and be a bit of a pop gun offense. But they do need to make sure that, they're kind of keeping the chances even. And I think, especially if they're playing another team like Nashville, potentially, they have a chance to certainly be the better offensive team. Because Nashville plays a similar game, but the Canucks have way more skill up front than Nashville. So, again, get ahead of ourselves.
But let's be honest, they do have a lot more skill than a lot of other teams. But the revolving door of line mates and just line combinations, it's gotten to a point where it's clear that it's not working. It's not sexy. It's not going to be sexy unless they get lucky or something miraculous happens in the playoffs where this top 6 is lethal because guys like Miller and Pettersson and Besser on 2 separate lines are playing assassin-like, instead of playing the patient game and playing like this bump and dump and chase type of hockey, play to the point, get a shot. Like, there is still a lot of room for this team to improve 5-on-5, or B, not being the case. And as Trevor alluded to, maybe this team is just going to be this team that's going to lock it down defensively and capitalize on their chances. Like, it's again, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not trying to be a pessimistic person right here. Like, I was super happy that we beat the Oilers. But at the same time, without McDavid and company for the Oilers, I would have liked to see some of our all-stars bring it to another level offensively, and that wasn't the case. Begsy, you can tell me to shut up if you want, because the bottom six did step up. We got goals from Pius Suter, and we also got a beautiful goal. I'll say beautiful in regards to that Sam Lafferty goal. Anything you want to say to me? Because again, all over the place, the Wi-Fi issues. Now we're being pessimistic. That's what happens. Should I just shut up?
I think you need to take a sip of the Kool-Aid, man. That's for sure. I don't know what's in your cup there, but hopefully it's some happy juice. Look, I brought up the stat a couple shows ago, but there was a stat that at all strengths, the Canucks, since the All-Star break, have an expected high danger goal of 55%, but they've actually scored 42%. So they're still creating more high danger chances than the opposition, but they've just been scored on more. And part of that's Demko missing. Part of that is just bad luck and regressing to the mean. But I still think, again, even though the Canucks haven't created that much, they're allowing next to nothing. They're still out-chancing their opposition. And those are things that I'd like to see heading into the playoffs. And maybe I'm just an optimistic fan, but I do feel like at some point the luck is going to turn for these Canucks. And some of the guys like Pettersson, in particular Pettersson and some of the bottom six guys, I do think that's going to turn now. They got just enough on Saturday night, again, against the McDavid-less Oilers. But it's funny, like, coming out of that Edmonton game, I just thought this headline was hilarious, and I wanted to bring it up. This is written by Robert Tchaikovsky at the Edmonton Journal, and his headline was, "Losing to Canucks was probably best for the Edmonton Oilers." And my first thought was that if I'm an editor of a publication, I'm not posting some loser sad sack headline garbage like this. I mean, the guy goes on to talk about how losing was best because now the Oilers don't have to chase for a division and now they can rest up and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you guys scored one goal against the Canucks and their backup goaltender, man. I don't know. Am I being too harsh on Edmonton right now, or does that scream loser mentality to you?
It kind of screams loser mentality. I kind of get the narrative too. Maybe they don't have to chase the division / allow the organization to be patient with the whole Connor McDavid injury, right? Because let's be honest, that's a really important game on Saturday. A really, really important game. Like, I don't give a beep what people say. Straight up, the extra home game does matter. Straight up, winning the division does matter. But obviously, McDavid's not close. Or just wasn't close to being healthy for Saturday, right? Straight up. And now this kind of allows the pressure of winning the division to not be the case, and they can just be patient with, again, McDavid and the injury. That being said, I'm not here to talk about the Oilers, okay? Let's talk about the loser mentality of some Canucks fans, okay? And now I'm ragging on the team's offense, okay? The team's 5-on-5 play. Is Pettersson? Straight up, where's Pettersson? Where's Elias Pettersson? It's been weeks. It's been months. Is he on Saturn? Like, where is he? Anyways, I was with a bunch of homies on Saturday watching the game, and a couple of them are like, yo, I don't care if we lose in the first round. I'm satisfied. And I had to remind them. And this is the first time I watched a Canuck game with those bros that really mattered in a long time. Like, I'm talking since 2011. Straight up, it's not even a joke. And when the homie said that, I turned to him and said, yo, bro, I know this season feels like Cinderella-esque and we weren't supposed to be here, but if you're a smart hockey fan, you never think a first-place team should be satisfied with only a first-round berth, straight up. And B, if you're a smart hockey fan or smart sports fan, you would never, ever want your team that traded 8 picks in 12 months to be eliminated in the first round. Like, the Canucks have to get out of the first round, thus making this whole winning the division thing super important. That game on Saturday, even though I wasn't completely satisfied, was huge. Gigantic.
Yeah, and for me, it was pretty satisfying as a fan to see the Canucks shut it down in the third and bring home the victory. Score as soon as the Oilers pulled their goalie. Kyle, I think two things can be true here, and I'll touch on this, and then let's wrap up the show on the other side with the GOATs of the week. Two things can be true. The Canucks have had a successful season no matter what happens in the playoffs. That is true. It can also be true that you cannot be satisfied if they lose in the first round. If they lose in the first round, and no offense to Nashville, but especially if they lose to Nashville, I'm going to be pretty choked. So I think the two things are true. Not being satisfied with the first round exit, and no matter what happens, the Canucks having a successful season. I think those both things are true no matter what. If you're satisfied if the Canucks lose in the first round, you're not really a true fan. You're more of a casual, they'd say. Let's wrap up the show on the other side. Before we do that, as long as my Wi-Fi holds up, we're going to shout out our friends over at Sleeper. All right, the Canucks have 2 games left in the season, and believe it or not, you cheer for one of the best teams in the NHL. If you want to be the best at something else, try playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is my number 1 choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you could win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Brock Besser, Dakota Joshua, or Connor Garland will record more or less in their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canucks fans. You can win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper, so start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms are used for details and locational availability.
People, we back. Kyle Bound and Trevor Beggs, who found his Wi-Fi under a sofa, dude. Under a used sofa, dude. Unreal, dude. I'm amazed at our listeners, man, sticking around for this. I love it, man. You know why they're sticking around? Because we've been through a lot as a fan base, and we're almost there. The best is about to come, okay? For real. The playoffs, man, they matter. Anyways, man. The playoffs, the people, Vancouver feeling like themselves. Hey, speaking about the people, let's get to the comments before we get to the GOATs of the week. We're really only here because of you and you and you and you. Look at this comment from Dale Smith. I think he comments this every time. Should we start a GoFundMe for Trevor Beggs' Wi-Fi? Or maybe it's Trevor Beggs' computer from 2012. Who knows? Who knows? How about this, Richard? Trevor is still on pre-dial-up. It is what it is. Shout out to the dial-up day. Shout out to Google Images. Straight up. Look at GV. We've been waiting way too long to just be satisfied with the first round, a.k.a. the first round is not satisfying. And then we had Major Tao saying the same thing, okay? The first round is not enough if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. I also saw this one comment too, okay? To Infinity and Beyond says, wow, you're talking about the Conn Smythe already? Maybe Canucks fans or the team in general should pass the first round first. Bro, I don't care. I don't care if I'm putting that out there, that the captain of our team is going to win the Conn Smythe. I never actually visualized that. It took me 31 years of being a sports fan or Canucks fan to put that together, right? I'm only thinking about the cup, but it'd be cool to see Quinn Hughes win the Conn Smythe too, okay? Be recognized as the guy when hockey matters the most. Am I jinxing the Canucks by saying that? Because I've had some comments even on the poll questions when I bring that up in the comments, like, yo, who's gonna win the Conn Smythe? People are like, yo, relax. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna relax.
No, because it might not be this season, but at some point, and we said this back in August, and maybe this episode will get a little bit more play now, but in the middle of August, we had nothing to talk about. I think we did an episode that said the Vancouver Canucks will win the Stanley Cup. And I think the take of that episode was it might not be this year, might not be next year, but, you know, in this era with this core will win and they will figure it out. And I think we all got here sooner than we thought, but sports are about dreaming, sports about passion. I got no problem having some fun and putting that out into the atmosphere. It's not quite the Conn Smythe, but you know that Quinn Hughes definitely, he's the GOAT, man. And he might make this list when we do this called GOATs of the Week. All right. Maybe we have a late race for the GOAT of the year for your Vancouver Canucks. But, again, if you're new to the show, every Monday, once a week, we rank the top 5 Canucks of the week. And then we got our yearly GOAT rankings as well. For this week, it's Quinn Hughes, 5 points in 3 games. I thought he was, in that Arizona game, he was the catalyst for spearing that comeback. He was great against Vegas. And then the Edmonton game as well, I thought he was fantastic. When I think about Quinn Hughes and the plays he makes during the game, there was a play in the second period against the Oilers where Quinn Hughes dangles at the blue line, walks down into the defensive zone. Bless you, Kyle. Bless you. walks down close to the goal, centers it to Höglander, and the Edmonton defender gets a stick. But it was that kind of play where if Höglander gets to that puck first, it's probably a goal. And he just makes so many plays like that in the game. I mean, this guy could probably have 140 points like Kucherov if the bounces went his way, right? But unbelievable player. And yeah, in my eyes, he was the best Canuck of the week. Number 2 is Connor Garland. And looking for how far this guy's come. And I know he's getting the PP1 time now. But last week, Connor Garland averaged almost 19 minutes per game. He was averaging less than 15 minutes a game not that long ago. Tocchet is deservedly playing the wheels off this guy. And last week, he was fantastic. 3 goals, 4 points in 3 games. Again, honestly, my list looks pretty similar to last week, but it's the same guys stepping up. Pettersson not stepping up as much, but Garland, Hughes, they're doing their thing. At number 3, and I know he played 1 game, but it was a big one, Casey DeSmith. If Casey DeSmith doesn't have a rock star like first period against the Edmonton Oilers, the Canucks are losing that game. It's great as the Canucks played in the final 40 minutes. Like you said, Kyle, they didn't, score a barrage of goals. They were in the game because Casey DeSmith made a ton of great saves and Sam Lafferty got an opportunistic goal. So I wasn't sure if the Canucks were going to win that game on Saturday. I wasn't totally confident they were going to win, but I was confident that DeSmith was going to bounce back, and he did in a big way on Saturday night. Quickly, number 4 and 5, I have Miller at 4, Joshua at 5. They've both been on the list, the top 5 for a couple of weeks, and they continue to keep doing their thing. Again, when I think back to that Vegas game last Monday, Garland and Joshua could have had like a combined 8 points. They were just everywhere in that contest.
No, I'm really glad that Joshua got that empty netter too. I don't know if it was his best game on Saturday, but he still, in my opinion, was better than Pettersson. Straight up. He was more noticeable. That line's noticeable. That duo's noticeable. And I'm going to end it on this note. Get away from these Wi-Fi problems and whatnot. And, we'll reset tomorrow. And speaking of the word reset, I know the Canucks won on Saturday, and I know that, Lindholm's line looked better and Lindholm had chances and blah, blah, blah. Like, that trio could work. I don't know if a lot of Canucks fans are blind these days or just agreeing with everything Tocchet's doing, but you can't tell me that Joshua and Garland have had more than one elite game with Miller or Lindholm compared to all the games they were dominating with Teddy Bluger, which brings me to this point. Are we ever going to see that line again? I don't care if we have to get Lindholm going, straight up. I don't care. Because the chemistry that Bluger added to that duo, it shouldn't be ignored. It shouldn't just be like, any center could do it with those guys, No, he was part of the recipe, part of the sauce, part of the magic. His tenacity, his speed, his puck retrieval. And I get it. He played a really good game with Colson and Lafferty too. But I'm kind of confused to see and why we haven't seen that yet, because it was the Canucks' best line 5-on-5. And again, you got to get some guys going like Lindholm, blah, blah, blah. But I definitely want to see Bluger play with Joshua and Garland again.
Yeah, maybe let's get into that on tomorrow's show, because, I think we should pull the numbers on it, because I'm more of the mind that, Suter and Bluger both played well with them. Miller played well with them, and Lindholm, I thought, in a couple games, or in one game, I guess now.
It's good with them for a whole month, and they put up a bunch of points, bro. They were doing it. They were executing. Look at the highlights, bro. They were killing it. You cannot tell me that those two have had better games with centermen not named Teddy Bluger. And if there are better games, maybe it's 1.5 better games. Those guys were magical, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you're going to put Lindholm on the 4th line then, or what?
Dude, I don't know. I'm just saying that I wouldn't put Lindholm on the 4th line. Maybe experiment with Suter getting some, solo 4th line abilities as a center with Lafferty and Colson, and then move Lindholm maybe up with Pettersson. But, man, oh, man, the Canucks are going to go into the playoffs with the top 6 of Pius Suter and Ilya Mikheyev. They have 3 goals combined in their last 80 games. That's actually the truth. I'm not even lying about that. Or maybe no, 3 goals. That's actually the truth. Come on, guys. Come on. What's going on here? Why isn't Teddy Bluger playing with Dakota Joshua and Garland just for a bit? Let's see that.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do a little Begsy versus Bound about this on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Canucks. But for now, we got to get out of here. Shout out to the everydayers, occasional listeners, first-time listeners, new subscribers, and those of you who joined us on the live show. We love each and every one of you, especially as you deal with me and my dial-up internet. One day we'll figure it out. But playoffs are on the horizon, baby. Next Monday, likely next Tuesday, according to Elliot Friedman. So we're going to break down everything you need to know about the Vancouver Canucks ahead of the playoffs, and we'll size up the matchup with their first round opponent, whoever that might be. What's up, Nashville? But for now, we got to get out of here. Kyle, anything to say to the people before we sign out?
Hey, subscribe if you're new to the channel. It'll help us, get some better Wi-Fi, and hit the like button, man. Hit the like button. Go Canucks, go. If this video gets 11 likes, we're winning the Stanley Cup. Enjoy life, people. Is that it? Are we out of here? Okay. Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs, Locked On Canucks. Woot, woot.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team